In the lively city of Lagos, Abigail, a 28-year-old businesswoman, lived a life that most people could only dream about. She had worked hard to build her success from the ground up, starting with nothing. She remembered how she spent late nights studying in school and later working long hours to grow her company. Now she had it all: money, power, and a thriving business. But there was one thing missing from her life: love. Abigail often felt lonely. She had been so focused on her education and career that she never found the time to date or think about love. She had few friends, and they all had families of their own. Abigail would sometimes wonder if she had made the right choices, but she quickly pushed those thoughts away. She loved her work, and she was proud of what she had achieved. One sunny afternoon, as Abigail sat in her luxurious office overlooking the city, she received a call. "Madam Abigail, your package has arrived. Should I send the delivery guy up?" "Yes, please," Abigail replied, not thinking much of it. She was expecting an important document, and she needed it right away. A few minutes later, there was a knock on her office door. "Come in," Abigail said, her eyes still on her computer screen. When she finally looked up, she saw a young man standing in front of her, holding the package. "Good afternoon, madam," the young man said with a warm smile. "I have a delivery for you." Abigail smiled back. "Good afternoon. You can leave it on the desk." The young man carefully placed the package on her desk and said, "Please, could you sign here?" He handed her a small device to sign on. Abigail noticed how polite and respectful he was. She also noticed something else: his eyes. They were kind, but there was a sadness behind them. "Thank you," Abigail said as she signed for the package. "What's your name?" "Uchi, madam," he replied. "Nice to meet you, Uchi. How old are you?" "I'm 22, madam," Uchi said, surprised that she was asking. "Just 6 years younger than me," Abigail thought to herself. "How long have you been working as a delivery guy?" Uchi hesitated for a moment. "About a year now, madam." Abigail could see that he wasn't eager to talk about it, but something about him made her curious. "Do you enjoy your work?" she asked. Uchi nodded, but Abigail could sense that it wasn't the whole truth. "It's a good job," he said simply. As Uchi left, Abigail found herself thinking about him. There was something different about Uchi. He wasn't just another delivery guy. He seemed sincere, and his smile had a warmth that stayed with her. The next day, Uchi had another delivery for Abigail. This time, she asked him to sit for a moment. "Uchi, where are you from?" she asked. Uchi was surprised by her interest, but he answered, "I'm from a small village. I came to the city when I was 18. "What brought you here?" Abigail asked, genuinely interested. "I wanted a better life," Uchi said, looking down at his hands. "I finished senior high school, but there were no opportunities in my village. I thought I would find something here, but it wasn't easy. I tried to get a good job, but everywhere I went, they turned me away. I had to do a lot of odd jobs to feed myself. Finally, I got this job as a delivery guy. It's not much, but it's honest work." Abigail listened quietly, feeling a deep respect for Uchi. He had struggled, but he hadn't given up. She admired his determination. "You've done well, Uchi," she said softly. "It takes a lot of courage to keep going." Uchi smiled at her words, feeling a warmth in his heart that he hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you, madam. That means a lot." As the days went by, Uchi continued to deliver packages to Abigail's office. Each time, they talked a little more. They shared stories about their lives, laughed together, and slowly, they began to feel a connection. Abigail found herself looking forward to his visits, and Uchi started to feel the same way. One afternoon, after a particularly long conversation, Abigail realized something surprising. She was falling in love with Uchi. She hadn't planned it, but there it was. His youth, his kindness, and his simplicity had touched her heart in a way she hadn't expected. Uchi, too, found himself thinking about Abigail more and more. She was different from anyone he had ever met. Despite her wealth and power, she was kind and down to earth. He admired her strength and the way she had built her life from scratch. One evening, as they talked, Uchi said, "Madam Abigail, you've achieved so much. Do you ever feel lonely?" Abigail looked at him, her heart heavy. "Sometimes," she admitted, "but I've always believed that if you work hard, good things will come." Uchi nodded, understanding her feelings. "I believe that too," he said softly. It wasn't long before their friendship turned into something deeper. Abigail and Uchi started dating, and despite their age difference and the whispers of others, they were happy together. Abigail didn't care about what people said. She was in love, and she believed that love could overcome any obstacle. When Uchi finally proposed, Abigail didn't hesitate. She said yes, knowing that she wanted to spend the rest of her life with him. They married in a small, intimate ceremony, surrounded by close friends and family. Abigail was deeply in love, and for the first time in a long time, she felt complete. She didn't care about Uche's financial status. She knew they could build a beautiful life together. Her friends warned her about the challenges ahead, but Abigail was sure of her feelings. She believed that with love and trust, they could face anything that came their way. Abigail and Uchi began their life as a married couple with hope and excitement. They had each found something they had been missing, and together they were ready to build a future filled with love and dreams. Abigail, now 29, was deeply in love with Uchi, who had just turned 23. She wanted nothing more than to see him succeed and be happy. Uchi, grateful for Abigail's love and support, worked hard every day. Abigail believed in him so much that she helped him start his own delivery company, using her resources and connections. "Thank you for believing in me, Abigail," Uchi said one evening as they sat together in their cozy living room. Abigail smiled, taking his hand in hers. "You have a good heart, Uchi. I know you can do great things." With Abigail's guidance, Uchi's business quickly grew. He went from delivering packages on his bike to managing a fleet of delivery trucks. Within 5 years, Uchi had become a successful businessman. He was proud of what he had accomplished, but as his business grew, so did his pride. One evening, Abigail prepared a special dinner to celebrate Uchi's success. She cooked his favorite dishes and decorated the dining table with flowers. "Uchi, I'm so proud of you," Abigail said as they sat down to eat. "Look at how far we've come." But Uchi only nodded, barely touching his food. He seemed distracted, his mind elsewhere. Abigail noticed the change in him, but didn't say anything. She didn't want to ruin the evening. As the weeks passed, Uchi grew more distant. He stopped coming home early, spending more time at work or out with his friends. He no longer looked at Abigail with the same warmth and affection. Instead, he became cold, often ignoring her or speaking to her with impatience. "Uchi, is something wrong?" Abigail asked one evening as he was about to leave the house again. "I'm just busy, Abigail," Uchi replied, avoiding her gaze. "Don't worry about it." But Abigail did worry. She missed the way Uchi used to look at her, the way he used to make her feel special. She tried to talk to him, to make him see that they could work through anything together. But Uchi wasn't interested. He had changed. The strain in their relationship deepened when, after 5 years of trying, they still hadn't been able to have a child. Abigail longed to be a mother, and Uchi, too, wanted children. But with each passing year, their hope faded, and the emptiness grew. One day, Uchi met a young woman named Amara at a business event. She was beautiful, with bright eyes and a carefree smile. She was everything Abigail wasn't, young, lively, and full of energy. Uchi found himself drawn to her, and soon he began an affair. Amara would often flirt with him, making him forget about the troubles at home. He began spending more time with her, lying to Abigail about late meetings and work commitments. The thrill of these secret encounters made him feel alive again, and for a moment he forgot about the emptiness in his marriage. Abigail started noticing the little signs. Uchi would come home smelling of a different perfume, or he'd be on his phone late at night smiling at messages. She confronted him one evening. "Uchi, are you seeing someone else?" she asked, her voice trembling. Uchi didn't deny it. "Abigail, you're too old for me," he said bluntly. "I need someone who can give me children, someone who makes me feel alive." Abigail's heart shattered. "But Uchi, we've built a life together. I love you." But Uchi's mind was made up. He had fallen for Amara, who was now pregnant with his child. He saw this as his chance to start a new life, one that didn't include Abigail. Uchi knew that to fully break free and secure his future with Amara, he needed money. He decided to take advantage of Abigail's trust. One afternoon, he approached her with a serious look on his face. "Abigail, I've been thinking about expanding the business," he said, carefully choosing his words. "I want to buy new trucks and hire more people, but we need more capital." Abigail, always supportive of Uchi's ambitions, listened intently. "That sounds like a good idea, Uchi. How can I help?" Uchi pulled out some documents from his bag and placed them on the table. I've spoken to some investors, but they need to see that we have substantial assets. If you could sign these papers, it would show that we're backing the expansion with our own resources. Abigail trusted Uchi completely. She hoped that this new business deal would bring them together once more. She also believed in Uchi's vision and wanted to see him succeed even more. Without a second thought, she picked up the pen and signed the papers. As she signed the last document, Uchi watched her, hiding the guilt that gnawed at him. He knew he was betraying the woman who had given him everything, but he pushed the feeling aside, focusing on his plan to be with Amara. "Thank you, Abigail," Uchi said, forcing a smile. "This means a lot to me." Abigail smiled back, unaware that she had just signed away a significant portion of her assets. She had no idea that the papers Uchi had given her weren't for the business expansion at all. Instead, they transferred ownership of some of her properties and shares in her company to Uchi. A few weeks later, Uchi packed his bags and told Abigail he was leaving. "I'm done, Abigail," he said coldly. "This marriage is over." Uchi smirked, his eyes cold. "You signed over everything to me. I have the business, the house, and now I'm free." The shock hit Abigail like a wave. "What? You can't be serious. What about everything we built together?" she whispered, tears streaming down her face. But Uchi didn't care. He handed her the divorce papers, and before she could process what was happening, he walked out the door, taking everything with him. Abigail was left with nothing, no assets, no husband, and no hope. She was devastated. The man she had loved and supported for years had betrayed her so cruelly. She felt broken, lost, and utterly alone. The pain was too much to bear. Sitting alone in their empty house, Abigail felt lost. The dreams they had built together now lay in ruins. She remembered the love they once shared, but now it felt like a distant memory. The pain of betrayal cut deep, and she was left to pick up the pieces of her shattered heart. Abigail was broken, both in spirit and in body. After Uchi left her, she found herself wandering the streets, lost and without purpose. The once powerful businesswoman was now just another face in the crowd, invisible and ignored. She didn't know where to go or what to do. Her heart was heavy with pain, and her mind was clouded with thoughts of the life she once had. One night, as she was crossing a busy road, Abigail was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't notice a car speeding towards her. The sound of screeching tires filled the air, and before she could react, the car hit her. The next thing Abigail knew, she was lying on the ground, the world around her spinning. A man rushed out of the car and knelt beside her. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. But Abigail's world went dark as she lost consciousness. When she woke up, Abigail found herself in a hospital bed, her body aching all over. She blinked, trying to make sense of where she was. A man sat beside her, looking worried. He was tall and well-dressed, with a kind face that seemed familiar. "Are you okay?" the man asked softly. Abigail struggled to speak, her voice weak. "Where am I?" "You're in the hospital," the man replied. "My name is Benjamin. I'm so sorry. I didn't see you when I was driving. I didn't mean to hurt you." Abigail looked at Benjamin, trying to remember if she knew him, but her mind was still foggy. "Thank you for bringing me here," she whispered. Benjamin nodded, relieved that she was awake. "I couldn't just leave you there. The doctor said you were very lucky. You're going to be okay." As the days passed, Abigail slowly regained her strength. She also learned more about Benjamin. He was a billionaire, but he was also humble and caring. Benjamin visited her every day, bringing her food and keeping her company. He was always kind and gentle, and Abigail began to feel a sense of comfort around him. One day, as they sat together, Benjamin looked at Abigail with a thoughtful expression. "Abigail, I need to tell you something," he said quietly. Abigail looked at him, curious. "What is it?" "Years ago, when I was struggling to find work, you gave me a job at your company," Benjamin began. "You probably don't remember, but that job changed my life. It helped me get back on my feet, and from there, I was able to start my own business. I've never forgotten what you did for me." Abigail was surprised. She didn't remember Benjamin, but his words touched her heart. "I'm glad I could help," she said softly. Benjamin smiled. "Now it's my turn to help you. I heard about what happened with your husband. I'm so sorry, Abigail. No one deserves to go through that." Abigail felt a lump in her throat as she thought about Uchi and the life she had lost. "It's been hard," she admitted. I don't know how to start over." "You don't have to do it alone," Benjamin said gently. "I want to offer you a job at one of my companies. You're smart, talented, and you've done so much for others. Let me help you rebuild your life." Tears filled Abigail's eyes as she looked at Benjamin. "Why are you being so kind to me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because you were kind to me when I needed it the most," Benjamin replied. "And because I believe in you, Abigail. You're stronger than you think." Abigail accepted Benjamin's offer, and soon she was working again, slowly putting the pieces of her life back together. She threw herself into her new job, finding comfort in the routine and the sense of purpose it gave her. Benjamin was always there, offering support and encouragement, and gradually, Abigail began to feel like herself again. As they spent more time together, Abigail and Benjamin grew close. They shared stories about their pasts, their struggles, and their dreams for the future. Abigail found herself laughing again, something she hadn't done in a long time. Benjamin's presence brought light back into her life, and slowly her heart began to heal. One evening, as they sat in a cozy cafe, Benjamin turned to Abigail and took her hand. "Abigail, I've fallen in love with you," he said softly. "I know you've been through a lot, but I want to be there for you, to help you find happiness again." Abigail looked into Benjamin's eyes, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years. "I've fallen in love with you too, Benjamin," she admitted. "You've brought me back to life. I don't know where I'd be without you." They embraced, feeling the weight of their pasts lift as they looked towards a future together. Not long after, they got married in a small, intimate ceremony. Abigail wore a beautiful designer wedding gown that made her feel like a queen. Benjamin looked handsome in his suit. Their love for each other was strong, built on trust and understanding. They exchanged vows, promising to support and love each other forever. Soon after their wedding, Abigail received the news she had longed for her entire life. She was pregnant. Overwhelmed with joy, Abigail and Benjamin prepared to welcome their baby into the world. When their son was born, Abigail held him close, tears of happiness streaming down her face. She had finally found the love and family she had always dreamed of. Benjamin kissed her forehead, his eyes filled with love. "This is just the beginning, Abigail. We'll create a wonderful life together." In that moment, Abigail knew that despite the pain from her past, she had found a new beginning. With Benjamin by her side, she felt ready to face whatever the future held. It had been 5 years since Uchi had left Abigail, his ex-wife, and his life had seemed perfect. After tricking Abigail into signing over her assets, Uchi used the money to live in luxury. He bought a fancy apartment in the city, expensive clothes, and the best cars. Uchi felt on top of the world, believing that nothing could bring him down. He married Amara, the younger woman he had been seeing, and together they enjoyed the wealth he had taken from Abigail. But the truth was, Uchi's arrogance and the way he treated Abigail had left a trail of destruction. People in his social circle began to talk about how Uchi had betrayed Abigail, the woman who had helped him build his success. His reputation started to crumble. Business partners who once admired Uchi began to distance themselves from him, not wanting to be associated with someone so ruthless. No one wanted to work with a man who could betray his wife so easily. Uchi, blind to the growing distrust, continued to live lavishly. But as time passed, the consequences of his actions caught up with him. He made a bold investment with the money he had left, hoping to double his wealth. He believed he could easily charm people into giving him what he wanted, but the deal turned out to be a scam. In one swift blow, Uchi lost everything. When the reality of his situation hit him, Uchi was in shock. He had no money left, and his luxurious properties was taken away by the bank. He turned to Amara, hoping she would stand by him. But Amara, who had only married Uchi for his money, showed her true colors. When Uchi told Amara about the loss, she didn't even try to hide her anger. "You mean to tell me that you've lost everything?" she yelled, her voice filled with fury. Uchi nodded, feeling ashamed. "Then there's no reason for me to stay," Amara snapped. She started packing her bags, throwing clothes into a suitcase without even looking at Uchi. "Amara, please," Uchi begged, trying to hold her hand. "We can get through this together. I'll find a way to make money again." But Amara pushed him away. "You think I married you because I love you?" she said coldly. "I married you for your money, Uchi, and now that it's gone, so am I." Uche felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. "But what about our daughter?" he asked, his voice trembling. Amara paused, then looked at Uche with a cruel smirk. "She's not even your daughter," she said. "I only let you think that because it was easier. Goodbye, Uche." With those words, Amara left with their daughter, slamming the door behind her. Uche stood in the empty apartment, the full weight of his choices crashing down on him. Not only had he lost his wealth, but he also lost the trust and respect of everyone around him. The realization of how foolish he had been hit him like a ton of bricks. Desperate for a way out, Uchi tried to find work, but no one would hire him. His reputation had spread, and people were unwilling to give him a chance. "We don't need someone like you," they would say, turning him away. The man who had once lived in luxury was now penniless and unemployed. As the days turned into weeks, Uchi's situation grew even more dire. Without any income, he was forced out of his apartment and onto the streets. He wandered aimlessly, trying to survive on the little money he could beg from strangers. The same streets he once drove through in luxury cars were now his home. One evening, as Uche walked through the city, tired and hungry, he found himself near a famous restaurant. He stood outside, watching the well-dressed people going in and out, hoping someone would offer him a scrap of food. The smell of delicious meals wafted through the air, making his stomach growl with hunger. Just then, a luxurious car pulled up in front of the restaurant. Uche watched as the driver opened the door, and a handsome man stepped out, followed by a little boy and a beautiful woman. Uche's breath caught in his throat when he saw the woman's face. It was Abigail, his ex-wife. Abigail looked different now, happier, more radiant, with a glow that Uche had never seen before. She smiled as she held her son's hand, laughing at something he said. The man beside her, who Uche realized must be her new husband, gently placed his hand on her back as they walked into the restaurant together. Uche's heart ached as he watched them. He quickly turned away, not wanting Abigail to see him like this. He started to walk away, but something made him stop and look back one last time. He saw Abigail through the window, sitting with her family, her face full of joy and contentment. The life she had now was everything Uche had thrown away. Regret washed over him, so strong that it nearly knocked him off his feet. He had been so blinded by greed and arrogance that he had destroyed the one good thing in his life. Now, he was left with nothing but memories of what could have been. Uche spent the rest of his days wandering the streets, his once proud face now lined with sorrow. He lived with the constant pain of knowing that his own choices had led him to this bitter end. Every time he saw a happy family, he was reminded of the life he could have had with Abigail. But it was too late now. The damage was done, and there was no going back. His days were filled with hunger, loneliness, and the bitter taste of regret, but the worst pain of all was knowing that he had lost the chance to be truly happy. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe to this channel and like this video. Also share with your friends and families.